Welcome, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to the Midweek Wire. I'm Patrick Henningsen, your host. Thank you guys for joining us. We're streaming out live right now on Rumble, YouTube, also on X, Facebook Live, as well as 21stcenturywire.com. Hello to everybody there. Big shout out to everybody in the comment streams, in the chat rooms. We really appreciate you engaging with us. We've had a hiatus for this midweek program, but I am happy to say we are back, and we are back with a high impact segment today. We're going to be joined by one of the crew members of the Global Sumud Flotilla. And if you've been following this story, we've been covering it right from the very beginning, and we're really just surprised at the level of awareness that's been raised as a result of this effort. This is totally unprecedented. We'll talk about the details of this, but over 40 boats, over 400 participants, many or if not all of them, abducted, arrested, detained by the Israelis when they reached near Israeli-controlled waters, but were done so illegally in international waters. We'll talk about all the different aspects of this. It's an incredible story. And the person we're going to bring up on stage right now, she is a journalist. She's also very active on this issue, obviously, but she's also been a contributor at 21stcenturywire.com, and she's based in Spain. And we're going to bring her on stage right now to talk about her experience on the flotilla and what happened after Israel seized her and her crew's boat, as well as the detention, all of these things. We're going to talk about all of that with our guest, Iara Modarelli. She is joining us on the live link right now. Iara, thanks for joining us on the Midweek Wire. I really appreciate it. I know you've been through a lot. You've still processing a lot from what happened. It was probably an incredible experience. We'll talk about all the good and bad parts of it. But anyway, thank you for making the time.
Yeah, thank you for having me, Patrick.
So we'll get started here. For those people who aren't aware, you were part of this effort. We'll bring that back up on stage for a moment. But the Global Sumud Flotilla, we were at the press conference in London when they launched this effort. And we met some of the participants, including Tiago Avila and others. And it was, quite an ambitious undertaking, considering the previous missions that we covered, the Conscience, which didn't make it because it was sabotaged in port, the Madeleine and the Handala. And those were individual boats. This was so much bigger, and a huge level of organization that went into it. So many people volunteered to be part of it, plus all the crew members. Just tell us how this whole journey started, Iara, and then we'll get to I think the thing that people are most interested in is what happened after you were the pirates boarded your ship and abducted everybody, and what happened in detention in the Israeli Gulag system. But tell us about the flotilla, how you got involved, and what it was like putting this thing together.
Yeah, so this came as an kind of a coalition of the Sumud Flotilla, the Freedom Flotilla Coalition, the Sumud Convoy, and the March to Gaza, which happened earlier this year, which I also was a part of. After Israel sabotaged via the Egyptian secret police our attempt to march peacefully and non-violently to the Rafah crossing, we reconvened in Tunisia and started working towards creating this coalition of the Maghreb Sumud Flotilla, which was the convoy that had attempted to go through Libya and also march to the Rafah border. The Freedom Flotilla, of course, that had featured Greta and Tiago and Yasmin Ajar together on the Madeleine earlier that year. And then, of course, the global movement at the time to Gaza. And we kind of joined forces and started working together and attempted to create this huge movement. So I was part of the organizing committee there. And we ended up with around 70 plus boats at one point. Of course, throughout the journey, a lot of boats, or not a lot, but a few boats broke down. A few boats, for various reasons, couldn't continue sailing. We ended up with a total of 42 boats at the end, which was historic and an incredible effort, with 500 plus participants from around 44 countries, all sailing towards Gaza to break the illegal siege. And on our first leg of the journey, we left from Barcelona on the 31st of August. On our first leg of the journey, we'd already faced a couple of intimidation tactics. On the second night, we already had surveillance drones hovering above. And then, as you know, my boat, the Alma, was attacked in the Sidi Bou Said port in Tunisia. Drone strike one day after the family boat was also drone striked. And after investigations and after many weeks of kind of researching into this matter, the Tunisian authorities had actually confirmed that they had apprehended someone with ties to Mossad. So we, of course, knew but couldn't say who was behind the drone strikes until we had more confirmation. But after a few weeks, we learned who had been apprehended. It was foreign national in Tunisia with ties to Mossad, unsurprisingly. So when our boat was drone striked, and maybe you remember the footage, it was a pretty intense attack meant to intimidate participants, meant to essentially cause fear so that participants wouldn't go on the second or final leg to Gaza and would essentially quit at this point. But we were undeterred from beginning to end, and we continued sailing. Very few people actually left the mission as participants after this, so the intimidation tactic did not work. And then a couple of days later, as many might have observed throughout the journey, we were again attacked by 15 drone strikes. So there were 15 explosions that were happening above the fleet, and we were witnessing this in real time, kind of scared as to whose boat was going to be next. It seems like the technique here was to target the sailboats and the sails themselves, and to essentially have those catch fire so that those sailboats couldn't continue. And so 2 of our boats suffered structural damage. Again, we continued undeterred after this, but the Israelis were calling multiple embassies of that we know, the German, the Luxembourg, the Italian and the Spanish embassies, trying to manufacture consent to attack us even harder the next night. And maybe people that were following the story might have noticed that in the days following this ridiculously illegal attack on our vessels, the warships started joining from Italy, one from Spain, and one from Turkey. And while we were in Greek territorial waters, we also had one warship from Greece, of course, left us as soon as we were in international waters again. But they were trying very, very desperately and very hard to manufacture consent to attack us and to claim that these bogus fabricated lies about us being terrorists, that we were all guilty by association, of some steering committee members that had taken a picture with the chief of Hamas in Algeria, something that's completely normal in the global south. So the evidence that they had published in their ridiculous reports was a lot of it was completely fabricated, and the evidence that they had was no evidence at all. I mean, there was no evidence of any terrorist affiliations at all. And they were really, really desperately trying to paint us as terrorists. And even Western governments had to stop the Israelis and tell them that, no, they can't just attack and kill 500 humanitarians in international waters on a non-violent mission that had absolutely zero intention to enter Israeli territory and were heading to Palestinian waters to deliver desperately needed aid to the besieged people of Gaza. So, when they failed at potentially killing us, which they made very clear was their intention, or severely hurting us, we continued. The warships escorted us for part of the journey. Complete performative politics on that front as well. A complete PR stunt by our governments to pretend like they were protecting us, but in our hour of need abandoned us and turned back. And then, we of course got intercepted. I was moved from the Alma, the main boat with, of course, Greta and Mandela and others, a couple of days before onto a sailing boat called Meteke, because the other lead boat had an engine problem, and so we had to shuffle a couple of participants around. And I was really happy to be on a sailboat because we were very aware that the Alma was going to be intercepted first. And so I was able to provide commentary throughout the interception while our communications weren't yet jammed. And the whole ordeal was like out of a dystopian kind of sci-fi movie. It was insane. The Israelis, they brought a prison warship, a floating prison. This is something that they had said that they intend to do, a floating prison, as well as water cannons, about 6 boats with water cannons on them, and I counted 2 speedboats that would essentially roam around and jam communications on different sailboats. They couldn't do this for all sailboats at the same time. So whenever these comms jamming boats were at a distance, our camera reconnected and we were able to speak to the media team that was covering what was happening in real time. So that's a bit about the interception. It was insane to see. At this point, we of course didn't know what was going to happen. So, we didn't know if they were just going to bomb our boats. They had certainly showed intent to severely harm us. But I observed as they onboarded the Alma, and there was a drone that was hovering extremely low next to the boat. And then we just saw these very, very strong lights that were like daylight, essentially. We knew of about 12 vessels that were essentially encircling us, that were coming very fast from 10 nautical miles to 5. And then at this point, we knew it's the interception or attack is imminent. And we were seeing them all in the distance. We were seeing them all surrounding us, encircling us. And so one by one, they started intercepting first the large ships, and then they started coming for the sailboats. And they illegally kidnapped us in international waters. They tried to deter us with the water cannons, and then they boarded us completely illegally. Around 12 or so IOF soldiers from a special unit boarded our vessel, took over, and sailed it back to Ashdod port.
And so tell us about your comrades, the people that you were on the boats with. I know you're on a couple of different boats. We've got a photo here. We had yourself and Tag Hickey, the Irish performing artist, comedian, on the Sunday Wire just 2 weeks ago, and that was right before I think you were apprehended here. This is a photo of some of your comrades from the boat there. Is everybody, to your knowledge, Iara, has everybody been released? Is there still anybody being held captive by the Israelis?
Yeah, actually, there are 6 comrades still in detention. One of them is a Spanish national. We have two, if I'm not mistaken, 2 or 3 Moroccans and 2 Norwegians still GSF participants. And there's also one Nigerian participant that they actually lied to us about. They tried to they essentially told us that he had been released, and then we found out through the Nigerian embassy that he was missing, and so the Israeli occupation forces lied about this participant. So yeah, still 6 people in detention. We're in contact with embassies and our Adala lawyers. Which has helped towards the release of all the other participants so far. And we hope that the final participants will be released in the next 48 hours and back at home.
Yes, and I see we have Nelson Mandela's grandson. He was on the boat with you. I think we have a nice photo here of him and Tag and yourself
Yeah.
there. So tell what was that like? Obviously, he's quite a larger than life figure. Literally, he's very tall and also a incredible personality. You have Greta Thunberg as well, who you were sailing with.
Mhm.
Just tell us about your impressions of some of these more high profile participants in the flotilla.
Greta and Mandela, you would not be able to tell that they have the profiles that they have because they're some of the most humble individuals that I've ever met. The integrity that they have is second to none. These people are absolutely incredible, and their morals and their values. The way that they depict themselves is absolutely how they are in real life. One of the first things that Mandela did when he got on the boat was do the dishes, and Greta insisted on sleeping where everyone else was sleeping. These are individuals that I've come to love very, very much over the course of, we were sailing together for a month. So you really get to know your comrades on this mission in depth, and you form bonds, and so everyone on the Alma has become like family, and we are still all of us in touch and will remain in touch and are already talking about the next mission. One thing that I realized while we were being intercepted, and you have some footage that we can pull up of the moment of interception when I was communicating with the cameras, was that Israel does not have the capacity to intercept. It barely had the capacity to intercept the 42 boats that were on the mission. It certainly does not have the capacity to intercept 100 or 200 or even 1,000 if we could get there by next year. And they will of course try, but we really realized that they could not. They barely intercepted us all. The closest boat got to around 12 nautical miles from the shores of Gaza. So we continued sailing as they were trying to deter us, and it was an incredibly beautiful moment because we all realized, even though our communications were completely jammed and there was no way of communicating with the other sailboats at this point, that everyone was on this mission to get to Gaza, and that everyone was just completely undeterred and hopeful still, even while other boats were intercepted, that at least one of us would make it to Gaza. Of course, unfortunately, we didn't, and I apologize to all the Palestinians that are watching this for not being able to complete our mission. But what I can say is that we will be back, and that we will be back with more boats, and that now we have realized and truly understood to a deeper level that it is completely possible to break the siege, and that if we organize collectively, the people truly hold the power, and we used our passports of privilege to essentially be able to bring the topic of Palestine back to the global stage, especially in mainstream outlets that tend to not report on Palestine. But then when there's 500 Westerners with passports of privilege on board these vessels, all of a sudden this becomes the story of the day. So we wanted these very complicit mainstream media outlets to use us so that we could recenter Palestine throughout the journey, and we made that clear time and time again.
And here's some video that was circulating on Instagram. I think this is you. It looks like a black and white type CCTV type image, but it's obviously, I think, was this live streamed at the time?
Yeah.
So and let's just we'll show this, and I want to talk about this live streaming because it is incredible how much footage was able to be relayed to the various things, and the is hugely embarrassing for Israel. I mean, you guys really exposed what thugs they are, threatening all of you at gunpoint. I mean, and really recklessly. You talk about let's just look at this video for a moment, and we'll play this clip out, and then you can discuss it. But here it is.
Our spirit, we're undeterred, Wally. We're going to Gaza. A little bit closer now. We're actually inching closer. They come, they try to deter us, then they leave, and then we keep moving forward. And the whole fleet is doing the same, so it's really beautiful. We're kind of in unison, just moving towards Gaza, despite them trying to deter us and trying to waterboard us. We're just moving closer together. So we don't know what might happen. We don't know if they're going to intercept us and board our vessels, but it seems like they don't have the capacity to do it. So we're using that to our favor, to our leverage, and we are just continuing onwards. And so is the rest of the fleet. The Alma, we believe they onboarded the Alma and also the Sirius. So the large boats, which we were expecting, but the small boats, they're just trying to deter with these water cannons. And they can't water cannon all the boats at the same time for eternity. So they have to kind of roam around and go from one boat to the next. Each time they do that, we turn our engine on and keep moving. And everyone else is doing the same. And thanks the whole world for mobilizing, for keeping it going. We're undeterred as a fleet right now. So I don't know how much.
Okay, there it is. That's so what was it like when they boarded? Tell us about that moment. And I know there was a couple of ones previously where you thought, in fact, this is one of the on your previous boats as well, and you know what you have to do with your phones and all of this. You guys have a protocol that you follow, that everybody follows. But to tell us about that moment.
Yeah, so actually the night before interception, some military vessels were hovering very close by, and of course we didn't have experience of Israel sending various boats, and so for us the experience of interception was a boat comes close to our boat and they board our vessel and they intercept us. So at this point, the military vessels that were hovering close by were actually, the night before, those were actually the comms jamming boats. So these were boats that had no lights. They were hovering very, very close by. It was a real cause for concern because we didn't know what they were doing there. And so the night before our interception, a lot of participants from the Alma and from other boats had tossed their phones into the sea, which was our protocol. On the night of interception, when they boarded us, it was very bizarre. They made this announcement via megaphone that Turkey, Italy, and Spain had abandoned us, and that they would now board our vessel. And I'm not sure if other people got this announcement, but our boat certainly did. And at one point, our boat was one of the boats, if not the boat, that was leading in the fleet. And I believe they tried to intimidate us or tried to make us feel, like we had been abandoned by our governments. Not that we ever counted on anyone but ourselves to begin with. So this announcement, this shenanigan was quite bizarre to us. They boarded the vessel with about 10 or 12 that I could count in the moment, heavily armed soldiers from the IOF's elite unit. And we had, of course, our hands up at this point. We were completely soaked because the water cannon had, of course, soaked the entire boat, as well as the inside of the boat at this point. And they patted us down. They took our passports, which we didn't see until we actually landed in Athens on our return. We did not see our passport, not once. They put it in a plastic bag and that was it. They took control of the boat. They were pointing their guns at us, and we went downstairs. We were stuck downstairs in a completely soaked boat for about 12 hours while they towed our boat, or they brought our boat back they attempted to sail our boat back to Ashdod. They have absolutely no sailing experience, so this was quite hilarious to observe. They were just ruining our engine and looking like absolute incompetent idiots, for lack of a better word. When we get towed into Ashdod, we actually saw the Madleen and we saw the Handala. So it seems like the Israelis just have a graveyard of boats that they are very proud of having stolen from us in international waters. And they just exhibit them there like trophies. And one of the imagery that sticks with me when we got into Ashdod was that they were cutting down the Palestinian flags and they were putting up the Israeli flags, and they were just looking like absolute thugs on our boats. But there was a little sailboat that had graffiti on the hull that said "Free Palestine, to Gaza with love," with a little red heart. And they looked so ridiculous with their arms and the military vessels. They had the Super Devoras around with the guns on the military vessels and everything, and trying to intimidate us. And we're just looking at this, and it seems like a scene out of a comedy movie almost, where that they looked so idiotic and so just like it just, to me, and I wish I had a picture of this, it just was so clear that we had beaten them and that we would come back with more boats and we would break the siege. They just looked defeated, weak, pathetic, laughable to me and to many others. And we were just laughing at this moment because it was like, they try so hard to seem like this tough, powerful army, but really they're just a bunch of weak, pathetic, ridiculous, almost losers. It was quite strange to witness. We were towed into the port. I tried to wear a Free Palestine shirt and hide it under a jumper, but they didn't let me. They told me I should change, so I did. There were about 40 or so very cruel and violent guards waiting for us at the port of Ashdod, and they immediately grabbed us. They blindfolded us. Many people got blindfolded and handcuffed, and the handcuffs were incredibly tight. So a lot of people had no circulation and their hands were turning blue. They kind of tried to humiliate us at this point by putting us into a little area that they'd circled off for every participant, and one by one they would bring them there. They would kind of push your head down and hold you by, with your handcuffs and escort you to this area, and then you would have to sit down and bow your head in shame, which I didn't do at first, and then I was singled out for not doing this, and I was brought to the back into an area where
Okay, so we just lost the connection with Iara, but we'll come back to her in just a moment. and she's also provided us with some footage as well. I mean, we'll talk about her encounter with Ben Gvir, of all people. I mean, absolutely incredible part of the story, and we have some of the video clips of Ben Gvir and the threats he was making to the people in the
Can you
global.
hear me?
Yeah, we've got you back. Yeah, so we just lost you for a moment there, but we're
Sorry,
back again.
Patrick. I just
No
got
problem.
a phone call. I can't hear you right now for some reason, so let me just check
Okay.
my sound.
Yeah, we'll reconnect, Iara. Just
Hang on.
in
You
a
can hear
moment
me?
here. Yes, we can hear you. Very good.
Okay, so
Yeah.
I'll finish this and then give you like a minute or so to ask the next question, and then I'll just jump back in. So at this point, and apologies, I got a phone call. At this point, I was sat in the sun for hours, and for some reason they kept singling me out and just pushing my head into the concrete and telling me, insulting me and telling me to stay quiet, insults. They were doing this to people at random. They kicked our water bottles out of the way so we wouldn't have access to water. We got to come to essentially parade us as trophies. It was really sick, and to call us terrorists for just some videos that he was making for social media, probably. After this, we were brought to some sort of processing center in Ashdod. We had to strip, basically strip naked in a little cabin, and we were patted down, and then our belongings, anything that had any Palestine items, were thrown away. I remember they wiped the table down with the kefir, which I found so disgusting when I got to this table. They opened my bag, they threw basically half of my belongings away, and then they just to humiliate me would hold up my underwear in front of a bunch of men and things like that. So they were doing this, of course, to continuously humiliate us, for us to feel ashamed, but at no point did any of that work, because none of us felt ashamed of anything we did. But that was definitely the intention. After this, we got to a point where we had to sign the papers, or they wanted us to sign the voluntary deportation papers. About 3/4 of the participants had no lawyer present during this time, which is completely illegal. And they asked us to sign these papers, and they would ask manipulative questions at this point as well, like, do you want to go home? They would ask us at every juncture to see if they could get verbal consent, which isn't really consent, but for them, they would use that as verbal consent, that we had signed the voluntary deportation form. And you had to kind of catch them in their little tricks and call them out for it and tell them that, I'm not signing voluntary deportation because nothing I've done here is illegal. You kidnapped me in international waters against my will, brought me to Israel against my will, and I'm not signing a voluntary deportation order because I was abiding by international and maritime law in my actions. So, we had to kind of be smart about how we responded to them, but this is completely illegal, to not have a lawyer present while you're signing legal papers. So this was one of the pretty insane violations, apart from torturing us and physically and also mentally torturing us during our time there. After this moment, they put us into the prison bus, into tiny cells for hours, with either you had air conditioning on but the room was a fridge. So this was another technique that they used. Either it was a fridge or people were fainting in those cells because there was no ventilation. In my case, it was super cold for hours, and they drove us to the Negev desert, to Ketziot prison. The final kind of processing station they brought us to before they put us in our prison clothes and essentially threw us into terror prison. was, again, Ben Gvir came to an area that was probably 20 square meters, and around 50 or 60 women were in that area. And one by one, they started calling us, and they were doing these really insane things like medical checkups, which was not a medical checkup by any means. They just took a picture of the front, a picture of our backs for some reason, and that was it, just to be able to say that they had done a medical checkup. So again, lies here at this point. Ben Gvir came, called us all terrorists again, the same shebang. It was very cathartic to tell Ben Gvir that he's a psychopathic maniac and that he's a baby killer and murderer. And we were shouting Free Palestine, and we found out later that, of course, he drowned out that audio and just kept the audio of him calling us terrorists. But none of it worked. After this, they brought us to the prison cells, and there's a lot to say about that. I think at this point I'm going to jump back in so that we can start talking about what it was like in prison, and then I can also hear you. So I'm just going to refresh quickly.
Okay, can you hear me now? Yeah. So well, I'm going to bring in the Ben Gvir clips that Iara provided as well. And the first clip is basically Ben Gvir just basically putting out a video on social media. And so this is the defense minister, I guess, in the Netanyahu government. I mean, this guy's incredible. So I think we'll see if we get we'll bring Iara back on. Can you hear me okay, Iara?
Everything great now.
Yeah. So here's Ben Gvir. This is what he put out on social media as you were being apprehended. He did a sort of pre-victory lap, as it were. Big tough guy here. So I mean, if there's ever anybody you would call a human toxic waste dump, I think he just about qualifies. But let me bring in the first clip here. I mean, this is just somehow showboating. Somehow, to intimidate you, I guess. But here, watch this one, everybody, first.
איפה אנחנו נמצאים?
אנחנו נמצאים בכלא קציעות, וכמו שהבטחתי, אותם אנשי משט, תומכי טרור, נמצאים כאן בכלא ביטחוני, אירוע משחקים. הם מקבלים כאן תנאים של מחבלים לכל דבר, טרנינגים של מחבלים, תנאים של מחבלים, זאת אומרת, יש מינימום של המינימום, ככה הבטחתי וככה אנחנו מקיימים.
עכשיו בואו ניכנס, נראה אותם.
I mean, it's right there, real tough guy. I mean, he's, saying he's going to stick it to you guys. And they put that out just totally unashamedly on social media. I mean, this guy is a real head case, isn't he?
Yeah.
I mean, it's kind of scary. And plus the violent rhetoric, the genocidal rhetoric, and really just kind of dancing on the graves of Palestinians, children, dead hundreds of thousands of dead Palestinians. I mean, unbelievable. So you had a face-to-face altercation with him here, all of you guys. So he dragged you guys out into a courtyard or some kind of an open area in order to make a statement against all of you. And I've got that video clip as well. Let me bring that up on stage. I mean, that is just unbelievable. We've got this video clip here, and he posts it on social media. I mean, obviously edited, but here he is at the sort of prison. This is in front of all of the flotilla participants here.
תומכי רוצחים, אגב, האוניות שלהם נמצאו קרחנה שלמה. הם לא באו באמת, לא למשט, לא לעזור, אלא הם באו בעד עזה, בעד הטרוריסטים. אלה טרוריסטים. הם תומכי טרור.
מה זה פה?
הספינה שלהם, המפכ"ל בדיוק מראה לי את זה, אני מפקד מחוז דרום. מחפשים כאן סיוע הומניטרי. יש כאן מטרנה אחד.
מה זה סיוע הומניטרי? אני לא רואה פה שום דבר.
יש כאן מטרנה אחד, כמו שהמפכ"ל אומר, ונראה, כל חינגה אחת גדולה. איזה חינגה יש כאן? לא סיוע ולא הומניטרי.
I mean, that's Darwin's missing link right there. They've been searching for it for hundreds of years. This guy's just incredible. I mean, what was that like? I mean, were you guys you had a chance to get one back at him, didn't you? But it was edited out of the video. But go ahead, Iara.
Yeah, no, we did have a chance to say something back to him. Obviously, at that point, we were quite worried at whether they would, harm us or potentially shoot us or whatever if we respond to him. But the opposite happened. He looked quite startled at the fact that anyone would say anything to him, because of course he's used to dealing with Palestinian prisoners, which he just subjects to torture and executes on the spot if he wants to. So of course, now that he has 500 activists with passports of privilege, he can't just execute us on the spot, and he knew that very well. And so we also knew that, and we used that to be able to actually respond to him. And I think that the prison guards, who were just, these people are so evil. It was something else to see evil incarnate in person for all the days in prison. But what was where we realized our privilege was that we were able to at points say things to them, and of course those were never received without some sort of threat or some sort of sniper pointed at us. But we knew at this point that they weren't going to be able to shoot. Then they're unable to. It would cause a diplomatic nightmare for them. So we were using these moments to actually say, tell them that they were genocidal maniacs, and that I was even trying to speak to an Argentinian guard. I'm Argentinian, and so it felt so dystopian to me to see an Argentinian guard and tell me essentially that she didn't believe that any Palestinians had been killed so far. I mean, just complete brainwashing to another level. But yeah, it was truly insane to witness, and this individual walk past us, this evil murderer walk past us, and just try to describe us as terrorists when he's the biggest terrorist there. Yeah.
So you have all the the physical abuse, the intimidation, threatening people at gunpoint, all of this stuff, and parading you around like trophies, and so forth. And but you also had, they put out a sign, didn't they? And they made you guys walk past this sign. It was a picture of the devastation in Gaza, and had a slogan or something like. And I think we have some footage of this as well. But describe this.
So this is one of the first things that I saw, and that I saw every morning when in our cell. You saw the footage of our cells. So our cells were next to each other, and the courtyard was in front of us. In front of us in the courtyard, we had a picture, a huge poster that said "The New Gaza," and it was just completely decimated, apocalyptic, bombed Gaza. So evil. Below that was an Israeli flag, and below that was a pool of what I'm pretty sure was blood. We know that Ketziot prison is a maximum security prison where they take Palestinians. And so it wouldn't surprise me at all if they executed a Palestinian right there and put the Israeli flag on top of it as some sort of prize. I mean, it's so sick, it's so depraved. I'm never ever gonna understand how people could be so evil. So every day I looked out my cell, I couldn't help but think of what had happened to Palestinians in these cells. There was a lot of Arabic writing on the walls. We believe that Palestinian prisoners were moved from this part of the prison to somewhere else. God knows what happened to them, but we could decipher off of some of the writing on the wall that on the 28th of September, they were moved from the cells that we then were subsequently moved into, a few days later. So
Just hold that thought for a moment. But here, I just wanted to show that footage of Ben Gvir with that poster of the future of Gaza, the new Gaza, or something like that. We'll bring this up, and people can watch this for themselves. I mean, it is kind of shocking on one level, not surprising, but here it is.
זה מה שהם רואים בבוקר, כשהם יוצאים לשעת חצר שלהם, זה מה שהם רואים, ואחד מהם למעלה כאן זיהה את הבית שלו. ככה זה צריך לראות.
So they made you look at this. I mean, it's just kind of a psychological sort of abuse, if you will, trolling you. So you guys are unarmed humanitarians bringing baby formula, medical supplies, food, things to people who are under siege illegally in the Gaza Strip. And this guy is parading you around, calling you terrorists. And then they still have to do all of this psychological abuse to you, as if it's not enough just to detain you. They think that somehow they're going to leave an indelible mark on your psyches or convert you to the Israeli cause. I mean, I can't understand other than just gratuitous depravity. I mean, it's just not that I'm surprised, but just to see this performative aspect of it, Iara, there's something seriously wrong going on here psychologically with this society. That's my feeling and many others' feeling. But your thoughts on just generally this, what you observed as well through your time there.
Oh, absolutely. They're completely deranged. I mean, every single interaction with a guard or with, in this case, Ben Gvir or anyone, any Israeli, was complete insanity. I mean, these people are absolutely psychologically just challenged, or it was so strange to witness, because on the one hand they can barely count, they can barely read names properly, they were very incapable of doing very basic things like keeping our folders organized, our files with our documents, etc. Or they would come every couple of hours just to intimidate us and also keep us from getting any sleep. This was very, very deliberate. They would come with armed guards every 2 or 3 hours at 2 a.m., at 4 a.m. We got as good as no sleep during our 4 or 5 days in detention. And they would come with armed guards, and they would come with German shepherds and with shields, and just complete circus, really. Because what are we going to do? We're in cells. We're humanitarians. We have absolutely zero previous crimes or anything that we've ever committed. So the first time in prison for like 99.9% of the activists, I'm sure. It was just insane to see that they were treating us as terrorists when they are the actual terrorists. So they would do these strange things. They would come into our cells, deliberately keep us from sleeping just to count us. And then they would slam the doors very loudly and leave. They would point snipers at our heads for no reason. They would insult us in every way they could. They put Greta into solitary confinement, of course, and she got a rash on her arms. They paraded her around like a trophy by putting the Israeli flag on her and kicked her repeatedly. They were doing all sorts of things, and at the same time they were denying us life-saving medicine. We had people in the cells that had heart conditions. We had people with diabetes. We had people who had cancer. They were not giving people their insulin. In fact, they kept all of our medicine at the port, and they threw a lot of it away. There was a girl in my cell that had blood pressure medications that were thrown away at the port. Another girl that had serious anemia issues, and she fainted multiple times in the cells. We called for a medic. We were banging on the doors for hour calling for a medic, demanding a medic. This is also illegal. Aside from not letting us see our lawyers for the entirety of the duration that we were there, we did not see our lawyers once. Completely illegal. We were taken to court, which was a small room with someone that again just asked us the question, do you want to go home? And among other things, and of course, you know, this is again completely illegal to have us there without a lawyer, without legal representation, which we're entitled to a lawyer. Aside from that, of course, no outside time. We got essentially absolutely zero time outside during all that time, except if you were one of the people that were handing out food and were helping the guards essentially do their job. So they were using us to hand out food. I was not one of the people that they used for that, so I got basically no outside time. The only time that I got outside was when on a random morning they knocked on our cells and said, wake up, you can go have a shower. And this was already very strange to us, because all of a sudden they were being not being absolute evil maniacs. They kind of just said, you can go have a shower. And lo and behold, there was a catch. They wanted us to, of course, they wanted us to look clean when we got back to the airport after being deported. And they also were playing that propaganda film that they make every activist watch when they before they get deported, which we of course refused to watch. But that's the only reason why we were let out of our cells for the entirety of our time there.
Which propaganda film is it? The October 7th
Yeah.
propaganda film, the one that is heavily edited, that includes footage that's not from October 7th as well. I mean, it's incredible. But that's the private one. They show journalists. They're not allowed to have a copy, but they get invited to see it. Is that the one?
That's the one. None of us watched it, of course, but they had a surround sound on that was incredibly loud, that they just blasted all day. And so, yeah, that was their little last ditch desperate effort to convert us to their side or whatever. It was completely depraved. And meanwhile, I'm literally looking out into a courtyard where there's a pool of blood and a completely bombed and decimated Gaza. I mean, it was unbelievable to witness these scenes. Just so evil, and so that just zero empathy, zero humanity left in these people when they speak to you, when they look at you. There's just no life there. It's completely depraved. It's something I've never seen this before in my life. I've never witnessed this kind of evil before. And of course, we have to go back to this, but if this is what they do to foreign nationals, to citizens of Western countries with so-called privileged passports, what do they do to Palestinians? How do they treat Palestinians in those prisons? Because they had fun pointing their snipers at our heads. It was a game to them. They had fun unleashing the dogs onto us and, doing all these illegal things, keeping us from important life-saving medication. It was fun for them. They are so inhumane that it really seeing, and this is the prison that Palestinians are brought through, the maximum security prison where the worst crimes happen. And one of our journalists from Novara Media, his name is Kieran Andrew, he's a Palestinian journalist, recognized that his brother from Palestine had been tortured in the same prison years before. And just unbelievable to think about that, to witness that, to see the writing on the wall, and to feel so, we would go to bed and we would hear the fighter jets flying above head, and it was horrific. We were 30 kilometers from Gaza, 30 kilometers away. And to your point on Ben Gvir as well, I'm going to go somewhere with a bit more light. To your point on Ben Gvir as well, the aid we brought was widely documented. We had so much aid with us, and there are hundreds of videos to show this. So of course he threw our aid overboard, that aid, that baby formula, that desperately needed aid that Gaza needs, that we were going to bring to the shores of Gaza, is now floating in the Mediterranean. And it breaks my heart that we couldn't reach Gaza this time. But they are so depraved, they are so evil that they punish babies, that they don't allow us to bring baby formula to dying babies in Gaza. That's how evil this entity is. And, you know, we witnessed but a glimpse of what they do to Palestinians, and that in and of itself was already so evil that I really struggle to imagine. And I don't have to imagine, there's so much documentation of what they do to Palestinians. Coming face to face with these maniacs was, you know, an experience that I'll never forget. And we're privileged to be home while we have 10,000 plus Palestinians that are still held in administrative detention with no charges whatsoever, and 450 of those are children. You know, after they release the 2,000 Palestinians that are held illegally in Israel right now, there will still be 8,000 plus Palestinians held in these prisons with no charges, no trial, no lawyer, no medication, no nothing. This is Israel. This is what they do. They lack basic humanity. And we will go back, we will sail again, we will bring more boats, and we will break the siege. And whether it's myself personally or not doesn't matter, because there's a wave of humanity that has come, that has been brought together. And there's, you know, we had 30,000 applications to join the Global Sumud Flotilla. 30,000 people desperately wanted to get on a boat to potentially risk their lives and be detained in Israeli terror prison for days, just to support and to bring aid for the hope of being able to potentially break the siege. So we will organize again. We will bring more boats. We will break the siege. And Palestinians don't need us to save them. They can save themselves. But we want to bring hope and solidarity and show the world that there still are people who care. There still are people who will go out of their way to try to do everything they can to demand an end to this insane genocide. And we talk about, you know, and we can talk about the ceasefire deal, which in my opinion is complete bogus and is going to potentially be a repeat of January. And I say that because in the hours after the announcement was made, Gaza City was bombed twice, while Palestinians were making their way back to the city center. So, you know, once again, Israel violates these ceasefires with impunity. The January one was violated nearly 1,000 times. The Lebanon ceasefire was violated hundreds of times. So why should we believe them now that they offer this so-called peace deal that calls for a complete demilitarization of Hamas, when Palestinians have the right to resist, the right to resist under international law, and the ones who should be demilitarized and de-radicalized that's Israel. That's the real terrorist, should be demilitarized and de-radicalized. And frankly, you know, seeing the ceasefire deal and this Trump so-called peace plan is not giving me any hope. I'm elated to see that Palestinians are joyous and are celebrating this ceasefire, but I have absolutely zero hope that this will last. And you know, they're already violating the agreement in the very first hours. Anything that Israel does will never come with concern for Palestinians. Anything the US or any Western states do will never come with concern for Palestinians, only for their own interests. And so I have my hopes aren't very high with this ceasefire deal, as sad as it is to say.
Well, I want to talk about the ceasefire in a moment, Iara, but is the photo that you've supplied us here. Tell us about this scene and what was going through your mind and who you're with here. We'll bring this up onto the stage right now. This is a photo, I guess. Tell us where this is and what happened before it, and just how you felt at this moment.
So this was in Barcelona when we arrived at the airport after being deported. So we were randomly and arbitrarily kind of put on a Greek charter flight with 160, I believe, participants. So it was a flight which, I was a bit worried that they would put us on a flight with settlers and they would kind of just bully us all the way back. Thankfully, it was just us together on a Greek charter flight. We got a blank boarding pass given to us, and then we were put on this flight like a bunch of prisoners and terrorists, essentially. We arrived in Athens. The reception in Athens was very overwhelming after many days of just, prison time and almost normalizing abuse in many ways. Getting received in Athens in such a loving and kind way was really, at this point we had absolutely no idea how huge the impact had been globally of this mission. We weren't aware because we were in prison. We didn't know that the world mobilized. I spoke very briefly to the guy on the media team behind the cameras on that video that you saw, and he told me that a couple of countries during, while we were being intercepted, had already mobilized and were already protesting in the streets. But then we did not understand the full scope of it, and we called for people to go out into the streets to use us and to use this mission to mobilize globally for Palestine, and that's exactly what happened. And it was beautiful to witness that on our way back. At no point did or does anyone on this flotilla want to be perceived as a hero. We are not heroes. Palestinians are heroes. Palestinians have awoken the world to the absolute evil, bloodthirsty empire and its colonial outpost, Israel. And we are not heroes of any story. We simply used our passports. We've done the very bare minimum that we can do with our privilege to recenter and refocus Gaza and Palestine as the issue at hand. So we have absolutely no willingness, nor do we want to be referred to as heroes. And this is something that we're very adamant about. But we got to Barcelona here. There were a bunch of cameras pointing at our face. I think some information got leaked that we were taking this flight because we didn't even know we were going home that same night. We kind of just booked a random flight and got on it from Athens. And yeah, this was essentially when we arrived to hundreds of people in Barcelona and a bunch of press.
And yeah, so I can imagine what a experience that was collectively with all of your fellow comrades on the flotilla there. And I see probably a lot of solidarity amongst the Spanish contingent, because that's where the flotilla was kind of the big launch from Barcelona, and that was quite a emotional and historic scene as well a month earlier. I mean, just Iara, just to do that trip on a sailboat, forget about Gaza, take yourself out of the political situation, the geopolitical situation, just to do that journey on a sailboat or on a boat, period, and with people, it's quite difficult. It's quite demanding on many different levels, interpersonally, emotionally. There's things that need to be done on the boat. There's all sorts of responsibilities that everybody has. I mean, at the best of times, it's quite a journey, but to do it knowing that you're going to encounter a hostile military, a rogue state that is in the international courts of justice for genocide, and that's who you're going to face. I mean, how is that feeling? I mean, were you worried? Was there fear? Did you go through any sort of, phases emotionally as you got closer? What was going through your head as it was you're coming closer and closer to that moment?
It's funny, at no point, not even in the prison, did I feel any fear. And the reason why I say that is because when you know that you're standing on the right side of history, there's no fear. Even during interception, it was almost it was strange how calm we were during the whole ordeal. We were very, very calm. There was no fear, because this is a genocidal entity that has killed now close to 600,000 Palestinians. We are standing up for what's right. We absolutely knew what we signed up for when we joined this mission, and we knew that our lives are not more important than Palestinian lives, and that was something that everyone was incredibly aware of. And so when we went on this mission, we knew whatever needs to happen will happen. But either way, Israel will expose itself, either by committing yet another war crime in their long list of war crimes, or by intercepting us, bringing us to prison, exactly what they did, another war crime, or we would break the siege and we would be successful. So either way, we win. And Palestinians echoed this to us so many times, because we, of course, the goal of this mission was to break the siege, and it's very sad to us that we did not do that. But the mission brought global awareness, and a Palestinian friend of mine that lives in Gaza, Amir, said, Yara, either you break the siege or you break the world's silence. And that was a very powerful message for us. So for us, the mission in and of itself was, as much as it wasn't successful in the main goal that we had, we feel it was successful in bringing the world's attention back to Gaza, back to what's happening. So we keep talking, and it's so unfortunate that it has to be this way. This mission should not have to exist, and we should not have to sail across the Mediterranean to demand, that Israel end its illegal siege on Gaza and allow humanitarian aid in, that is desperately needed. But when our governments fail to do this, we see no other option other than this, other than mobilizing and moving. And it's a shame that a bunch of Westerners caused the world to have such a large reaction, but Palestinians don't. So we were using all of that in our favor. We know how the world operates. We know that when we involve ourselves directly in this, and we sail to Gaza, or we try to march to the Rafah border, or whatever it is that we do, that people will pay attention, because this is one of Galtung and Rouge's news values, is proximity. So when you are close to a person that is involved in this, all of a sudden you start paying attention. So all we can do is use this knowledge to our advantage, and then continue centering Gaza. We don't want to be centered. We want Gaza to be centered. And we'll continue mounting these missions as long as our governments keep failing and they keep being complicit in this genocide and keep transferring weapons to Israel. We will keep resisting. And every act of resistance gets us a little bit closer to breaking the siege, and to establishing a people humanitarian corridor, and to bringing this aid into Gaza.
And you probably seen, I mean, there were kind of heartbreaking and probably very emotional for you guys to see the children on the beach in Gaza looking at the horizon, hoping that, and one boat nearly made it, while you guys had tied up the entire IDF occupation Navy. The Makino, I think is the name of the boat. It got 9 nautical miles from the Gaza shore before it was finally in late interception by the IOF, and even some people on the shore could see just a faint image on the horizon that they could see that boat, and they could see it being intercepted at the time, Iara. And so what does that go to show? That it can be done, that the Israelis can be overwhelmed. I think you were just probably a few boats short, but so you think it's possible?
Oh, absolutely. I know it's possible. I absolutely know it's possible. After seeing how useless the Israeli army is, and how weak they really are, and how powerful a people's movement really is, I absolutely know that we can break the siege, and we will. We were, as you said, maybe a couple boats short. Maybe if we had 100, we could have easily broken the siege, maybe even less. But we were right, as you say, we were right there. We were nearly there. We were nearly in Palestinian territorial waters. I don't have the final number of how close we got in terms of nautical miles. I know that it's confirmed that one of the boats got at least 28 nautical miles away from Gaza, and then Mikeno, I think, got up to 9 nautical miles away, and at 5, Palestinians on the shores of Gaza would have been able to see the boat. So truly, just seeing that we got further than Handala, we got further than Medellin, it gives us hope, because we're getting closer on each of these missions. We're getting closer to breaking the siege, so we're nearly there. So there will be more missions, and if anything, their abhorrent treatment of us, the torture, the psychological and physical torture, and the treatment, the legal treatment of us while we were in this terror prison, only made us much more resilient, and much more our resolve is so much stronger. So now many of us want to dedicate our entire life to bringing this genocidal entity down, and to seeing a free Palestine. Before this, all of us were already working towards Palestinian liberation in one way or another. And I've worked with you in a journalistic capacity since the genocide began, and before that. But now I'm just so much more. My resolve is just so much stronger, even more so than before, and that's saying something. I just want to dedicate the rest of my life to bringing these evil genocidal maniacs down, and to finally seeing a free Palestine. Yeah.
And yeah, it's a daunting but yet admirable mission. Here's a video that captured the hearts of a lot of people, of a little girl. I think her name's Shahid, on the beach, with a picture that she drew in anticipation of the flotilla making it to the shores of the Gaza Strip. Here, we'll play this video, and then I have another one I want to show before we wrap up this great segment. But here's, I think her name's Shahid here. Yeah, that's incredible. You can't forget that's why you're doing it right there. It really gives them a lot of hope. You have made an impact. I think everybody on the flotilla has made a huge impact psychologically for the people in Gaza, just to know that there's so many people trying. And that's why I think this is a historic effort. This is definitely a huge act of defiance, but yet done in a most humble fashion, and with so much deference to the people in Gaza. And I've seen the statements by all of your comrades as well, including Greta made some powerful declarations about, what's my, inconvenience and suffering, or what little physical abuse I endured is nothing compared to what's going on in Gaza. And that is really, I think, the message that has really shown through. So I think this is a fantastic effort, and against something that's, you know, quite a daunting adversary, if you think about Israel and everybody that's backing them, including our own governments. But something else happened before we go, and there is a siege and there is food, but Palestinians can't get to it because of the Israeli Navy preventing them from fishing off the coast of Gaza. That's their birthright. They're being prevented from feeding themselves. And you guys tied up the Navy for enough time for Palestinians to get out and get something from the sea, which they could feed the community with. We'll show this. This was posted on Instagram here, and this is kind of a somewhat emblematic, but a great viral video here. We'll play this as we go out. So I think that counts as breaking the siege. Technically, Iara, it's you tied them up enough for them to actually go out and do this. So you did deliver much needed food to the people of Gaza. Not enough as we would like and everyone would like, but you did by tying up the IOF's pirate fleet enough for these people can go out and actually catch what's out there, the bounty that is in the sea that they don't have access to, because the Israelis attack and prevent them from fishing, don't they?
Yeah, you know, it's so bittersweet that we have to feel celebratory about the fact that Palestinians were able to fish in their own waters, something that should be their right. As you say, these are their own waters that they cannot even fish in. They cannot even catch fish to feed themselves. That is how depraved the Israelis are, to even restrict access to their own seas. So, you know, my final message kind of would be that this mission was born out of Bisan, a live stream with Bisan back when the Madeleine was sailing, and she said, you know, Israel can't stop one boat. Israel can stop 10 boats. Israel can maybe stop 20 boats, but Israel can't stop hundreds of boats. They can't. And we saw that very clearly, and Bisan was absolutely right. We saw that very clearly. And so this mission was a response to a direct call from Palestinians asking us to organize and form a people's movement and break the siege collectively. And that's what we did, and that's what we will continue doing. And we will not rest. Nobody is free until Palestine is free. So we will not rest. Even with this ceasefire announcement of today, the work is not done. We have a lot of work to do still until Palestinians get their land back, until there is a true free Palestine and Palestinians can live in peace with their dignity and their human rights as they deserve to, like we all do. So, you know, to Palestinians watching this again, it's heartbreaking to us that we couldn't complete the mission and bring you the aid that you so desperately needed. But we are not, we are undeterred. I think that's become my favorite word during this mission. We are undeterred. We are going to continue coming and continue attempting to break the siege, and we will continue supporting and showing and bringing hope and solidarity from the world. We stand with you, and we will not stop until Palestine is free.
Yes, and also and message received loud and clear, Iara. Message received, and I think you probably speak for your colleagues on the flotilla as well. And on the issue of the ceasefire deal, that's just breaking news today. And one of our colleagues, who's a regular guest on the Midweek Wire, Ibrahim Majid, had this to say about Trump and Netanyahu's ceasefire or peace deal, supposedly. But we'll bring that up on screen just to reiterate. I happen to agree with this assessment here. And Ibrahim is very astute. He's based in Beirut. He's saying the illusion of peace, why the war in Gaza is only entering a new phase. The announcement that Israel's agreed to the first phase of a ceasefire in Gaza has been widely celebrated as a breakthrough after 2 years of relentless war and destruction. Beneath the surface, this agreement reflects neither peace nor stability. It's merely a tactical pause designed to serve Israeli and American interests at the moment of strategic pressure. So Israel's under a tremendous amount of international pressure to look like they're trying to do something. So is the Trump administration. But the moment the war is over, Netanyahu's career is over politically, and his regime is going to falter at that point. So they have no choice but to keep it going. So this ceasefire deal, I don't trust these people as far as I can throw them. They've lied every time. Donald Trump has lied every time. Steve Witkoff is a shyster, a con man. So is Jared Kushner, the president's son-in-law. They're not sincere. They're not serious about anything other than getting their real estate deal here built on the graves of dead Palestinians. That's their objective. And the Israelis have said they want to ethnically cleanse the entire Gaza Strip. So there's going to be no peace deal unless somebody restrains Israel. And if the United States, the Trump administration, I can't see them doing it. So, and they want to disarm Hamas, and they want the Palestinians to just, be quiet and, skip through the olive fields together with the settlers after all of this. I mean, it's just unbelievable. I don't trust them.
No.
Call me a skeptic. I'm not raining on anybody's parade, and I'm not going to deny the Palestinians what little joy that they can have by having a night or two or 4 nights or a week without bombing. Okay, I will never deprive them of that joy and that respite. They deserve it. But at the same time, I think Netanyahu is a bad actor. He's dishonest. He is not going to abide by any agreement with Hamas, nor is the United States. It's a very cynical ploy. Go ahead, Iara, your thoughts on this.
Of course not. Of course not. And, earlier we briefly talked about this. They've already violated the ceasefire agreement that allegedly came into effect earlier today. And even if it wasn't officially announced yet, there were plans for a ceasefire. I haven't checked the news yet to see if the announcement is official or whether they were still kind of about to announce it, or it was in its final stages of being announced. However, they have continued bombing Gaza today. They've done this with every single ceasefire in the past. There's been about 6 now. This is the 7th ceasefire deal or agreement. Hamas usually it keeps to the requirements that are set for the deal, and Israel, of course, doesn't, because Israel acts with complete impunity. The only reason why this so-called peace deal, which is very dangerous, calling for the demilitarization of a people that have the right to defend themselves under international law against their occupier, the only reason why this deal is coming into effect now, I believe, is because Israel is heavily losing the PR war, war, yeah, in the world. And the people now see Israel very clearly for what they are, an extension of empire from the US. And they see very clearly that and they reject a world where genocide is normalized and continued, and colonialism is still alive and well, and weapons transfers happen, and people just, you know, are every single state is essentially in the West is complicit to this genocide. We reject that, and there's never been a more global international movement calling out Western complicity and calling for an end to this genocide. And Israel knows that very well, and they know that, and they, even while we were sailing, they had just signed a deal, I believe it was with Google, to buy and deploy a bunch of Hasbara bots. And also we found out that they pay I believe it was $7,000 or so to people per post, propaganda posts. It is absolutely ridiculous. This is an empire that is in its final stages, and whenever an empire is in its final stages, it becomes more bloodthirsty, more violent, and this is exactly what Israel is doing, enacting their final solution. So we know that Israel is in its final stages right now, and we know that they are losing, and they know it. And so this is just a desperate attempt to seem in front of the global stage, for it to seem as if the US and Israel want some sort of peace, but at the expense of what? At the expense of the demilitarization of the resistance that is absolutely under international law allowed to exist. When are we going to have the conversations about who the real terrorist is? The real terrorists are the US, the Western states, and Israel is their colonial outpost, acting out this aggression against Palestinians on a daily basis. So the real terrorists need to be held to account. And until the war criminals aren't brought to The Hague and don't face accountability for all the horror and murder that they have caused in Gaza and in Palestine in general, this is not over.
Yeah, there's plenty of war criminals doing victory laps on social media. We won't go into it, but I think people can work that out for themselves. But Iara Modarelli, journalist, and I would say activist, and maybe just active. You're being more active than an activist. I think everybody needs to get active on this issue, and you've seen it for yourself. You've experienced the brutality, the depravity of the Israeli society, of the occupation forces, and so I think this is a valuable experience that you're sharing with our audience. And we've spoken to other members of the flotilla. We'll continue to have a dialogue with them, because I think it's really important that you're able to articulate your experience and to work through these issues and talk about this, because I think there's not enough of it in the mainstream media. So we'll do what we can in the independent and alternative media space to give a platform for these kind of discussions, because I think it's really important to put you in proximity, as you say, to the issue, that people can relate to you and your colleagues and your crew members and your comrades on the Global Sumud Flotilla, and we can advance this issue down further down the field, especially in the coming months, because it's going to be very, very difficult right now, getting into the winter months. So many people living in tents. I even saw one Palestinian man dug a cave in the sand, and then the children had were building sand barriers in case the tide came too high. That's what the kids did all day, was build sand walls to protect the cave that they dug. I mean, it's just, and that's fine for people in America, people in Britain, people in Europe. They're perfectly okay with this, apparently. It's just breathtaking, the level of corruption, the intellectual corruption in the West, the spiritual corruption, or the devoid of any spiritual feeling at all, that they could say this is okay. I'm just waiting for Christmas. to see if Bono and all of our rock stars, celebrities are going to do a song, a live aid for the people of Gaza. We're just waiting for Bono and everybody else to save them.
Yeah.
It's been 2 years. It's been 2 years. It's been 2
Yeah.
years.
We actually did a kind of skit around you know that I was on the boat with Ty and then Greta, and while we were on the boat, there was this ridiculous, what was it called, Celebrities for Peace or something like that, a concert that was going on, right? And this was right after the UN had finally grown a spine and declared that this was a genocide after 2 years of a genocide. So we were on the boat watching this unfold, and we kind of made a skit, and Greta was just saying, Tig was lying there as if he was Palestine. Maybe you can pull it up. As if he was Palestine, in his final stages, about to die. And Greta ran up to Ty and just said, "Great news! The UN has finally declared that it's a genocide, and celebrities are even posting on their pages, and posting things about Palestine to their stories. And this is how depraved it is, right? Is that this is all that the celebrities have brought themselves to do. And, we're not including the Cynthia Nixons or the Susan Sarandons that have actually had a spine and talked about what's happened here. But all the other celebrities that have huge platforms that could really put public pressure onto our governments and the people globally to just cause awareness on what's happening have done nothing, absolutely nothing over the course of 2 years. And it's just so evil. It's so evil that people, the 1% essentially that is hoarding all the wealth and has access to everything is silent, completely silent in the face of a live streamed genocide. So it's laughable, it's a mockery, it's a shame, a true shame that the people who have influence in this world are also people that are doing absolutely nothing with their influence. And that's why we need more Gretas in this world. We need more people who use their influence positively. And of course, these are the kind of people that the Trumps of the world are very angry about, because this is a human being with more integrity in her little finger than hundreds of thousands of people that have said absolutely nothing about this genocide over the course of years and years, and even before that couldn't bring themselves to speak about Palestine. So a shame on every single person that is still at this point silent about what's happening in Palestine. If you are silent, whether you are just a regular person or someone with influence, you have a moral responsibility to speak up in whichever way you can. But this is our moral duty. I mean, if we don't speak up in the face of this, what are we allowing? What are we allowing for the future generations? What kind of world are we going to be stepping into next if we don't speak up when we witness these horrific images that are worse than any horror movie that you could ever watch? This is what we're seeing, mothers collecting body parts and putting them in plastic bags. I mean, how much more do we need to see for people to speak? And at this point, I'm not speaking to the masses, because the masses are active. I'm speaking to everyone with a powerful platform and an influence that still hasn't grown a spine and would risk absolutely really nothing. People that have, that are regular people. I mean, I myself lost my job over speaking up about Palestine, but then a Taylor Swift, for example, can't say anything when really the political and the financial cost that speaking up about Palestine would cause her is very, very minimal, very minimal. Yet not a peep from these people. So just an absolute shame.
Yeah, all they can say after 2 years is, "Oh, what Hamas did on October 7th," and then we could get into the analysis of that, but we won't digress we had a great interview 2 weeks ago. That's you and Tad Hickey aboard. I think it was the Alma at the time, if I'm not mistaken. And right before you're apprehended and before everybody got taken to the gulags in Israel. It's a great interview conducted by my colleague Hesher at Alternate Current Radio Network, and what a wonderful team we have. Thank you, Hesher, for helping put that together, and thank you for being available as you guys did. And so that's something I think I can point people to. That's up on our website at 21stcenturywire.com. And yes, this has been a great discussion. I think it'll be definitely one for the record. And we'll continue this discussion, Iara, because I know that you guys are just getting warmed up. You've just started. So we look forward to more in the near future. But thank you again. We're all very happy to see that you are safe and that you made it home, as well as your colleagues as well. And we're also very, very encouraged by the level of morale from everybody, and the fact that you guys are continuing the fight, and there's more to come. So we really appreciate you joining us on the Midweek Wire this week, Iara.
Thanks so much for having me, Patrick.
Thank you for joining us. There she goes, ladies and gentlemen. That is Iara Modarelli. She is a journalist, and she is a crew member on the Global Sumud Flotilla, telling her story about what it was like. There's some harrowing accounts there, face to face with Ben-Gvir, one of the worst war criminals on the planet right now. And these people are so brave. They stood up to some of the biggest bullies in the world right now, and they deserve nothing but our respect and admiration for their efforts. And so we tip our hats to all of them, all of the members of the Global Sumud Flotilla. What an incredible Spartan effort by all of them. So that's all we've got time for today, folks. And again, go to 21stcenturywire.com. With so many great articles right now up on the website that I really don't know where to start. And also big shout out to our global affairs department there at the website. And of course, Freddie Ponton, our great colleague as well, who is the associate editor of global affairs at 21stcenturywire.com. You can see a lot of these different articles up on the website right now. And so we encourage people to go to check those out. Certainly there's something for everybody there. The level of detail and analysis, I think, is unmatched on some of these big issues. And so we'll bring that up. There it is, folks. And so you'll see we have various features, incredibly informative, including the recent move to indict Giorgia Meloni, the Italian prime minister, for war crimes at the International Criminal Court. She's not going to escape the long arm of justice. None of them are going to escape the arm of divine justice. That's for sure. And so read about all of that up at 21stcenturywire.com. We're doing our best to give you as much information as we can about the most important stories of the day. And so that's something we can definitely recommend as well. If you think about, you want to support this media platform, you like the Sunday Wire, you like the Midweek Wire, you like our daily content, the reports, the analysis. We're running a number of different social media channels and platforms as well. It's expensive. It takes manpower. We have a great team. We want to increase the size of our team, but we are desperately in need of support and funds to do that. And so we want to do more. We need to keep this ship obviously strong and well equipped, but we also want to add some new cannons to our arsenal as well. And we need your help to do that at 21stcenturywire.com in the information war, figuratively speaking. Support us. Go to 21stcenturywire.com, hit the donate tab at the top. You'll see various options. You can support us there. And ideally, we want you to take out a membership every month. It's around $5 US per month. And that's one way you can show your support for us. Subscribe and become a member at 21wire.tv. And so we hope that you will. We really need your support going forward. And we work with some great independent journalists like Iara Modarelli, Freddie Ponton, Arno Devile, Dr. Jan Aramton, one of the great Turkish geopolitical analysts as well, and the list goes on and on. We have some great content contributors and independent writers and so forth, as well as myself. We're putting out content on a daily basis, and we have multiple live shows per week, and we really appreciate you guys joining us. So that's all we've got time for today. I want to go out with, I don't know, we have quite a few great independent artists. It's hard to know who to feature, but probably one of the great tracks that I've seen on this topic was done by our friend Joseph Arthur, who penned a great song called Ceasefire Now nearly 2 years ago. And we were together when he wrote this and produced it. And it's quite a moving song, among others that he's written about this issue and others. But we'll go out with this track, and let's hope we see this happen, and we see it happen soon, and for real as well. Take care, everybody. All the best. Thanks for joining us.
Sides when their mothers cry, and no real way to justify their death that comes from an evil sky. Ceasefire now, ceasefire now. Ceasefire now in Gaza somehow. Damaged like a nuclear bomb, dressed in a kill box. People can't escape. They're told to leave, but where can they go? A genocide, some think it's biblical faith. Ceasefire now, ceasefire now, ceasefire now in Gaza somehow. This might be the last time to raise a hand about who we are. What's this say about who we are? 'Cause this might be the last time to raise a hand about who we are. What's this say about who we are? Digital images and digital lies cut out their heart along with their supplies. The propaganda leads to dehumanize our fellow humans. Silence that cries. Ceasefire now, ceasefire now, ceasefire now in Gaza somehow. Without equality What's this say about who we are? This might be the last time. Raise a hand about who we are. What's this say about who we are?
All of the pictures left unpainted, all of the games they left unplayed, all the laughter in the playground, all of the arts they never made. Ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. All of those voices left in silence, all with their names written in kind, lest their bodies pulled from rubble, lifeless empty dolls to find. Ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. What of the songs they've never written? What of the words they'll never sing? And the darkness of the nightmare, inescapable that rings. The ghost faces of a million Palestinian children. I hear the crying, helpless children, God's most precious and most dear. I hear them begging for the reason. How could you ever leave us here? I close the eyelids of a million Palestinian children. So what do we really stand for? Is this how our future's made? And when we ever find the courage to stand up unafraid, I tear away the persecution of the Palestinian children. Rise up and be the guardians of the Palestinian children. To respect our obligation, every creed and every nation, 'cause every soul deserves protection. Save the Palestinian children. Save the Palestinian children.